to the Act Two podcast, a podcast for the real life working screenwriter. I'm Tasha Hugh.
And I am Josh Hallman.
And as a reminder, Act Two is a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter, of which this podcast is just one of the things we do. So thank you for joining us here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for joining us on Patreon if you're there too. We love chatting with you and seeing all the stuff you're doing and hanging out with you at live events and being able to post bonus content and have somewhere for it to go. Because, you know, Josh and I like talking.
No, for sure.
Also pay attention to our socials because we now have a store, ActTwoMarket.com, and my husband actually has jokingly said, not at all jokingly, that my entire wardrobe is becoming quickly Critical Role in Act Two.
As it should.
And that's not a lie. So head on over there and also pay attention to our socials because we often will have, you know, like random discount things. If Barbenheimer was coming up, we would definitely have a Barbenheimer discount going on. Like stuff like that happens where, you know, you can get a little something for a little something less.
Wow, I love how you just pulled out Barbenheimer.
I just feel like movie events
We're gonna
are when we get excited.
We're absolutely gonna have one for Moana 2.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
What is the double feature there? Moana and
Wicked. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just I'm already thinking about it. Can't wait.
Do you have your seats already? Isn't that Thanksgiving?
It's Thanksgiving, no, but I'm plotting.
Okay.
I already know what theater. I got it all figured out.
Oh, what is your go-to theater these days?
I think for this one, I'm gonna do the Cinemark in Playa Vista, only because I really like the seats.
Okay.
I might pivot to the iPick in Westwood, so if anyone is there, come say hi.
I know that you've had trouble with the iPick recently, that it's been dirty and whatnot. So
yeah, I'm refraining from going in too hard on the iPick right now because I just keep going there. But let's just say they need an upgrade in Westwood.
Yeah. FYI, guys out there.
This was the most first world problem I've ever said in my entire life publicly.
Huge, but also we're movie fans, so it's a movie fan first world problem.
And while we're on it, the serving size of their popcorn. No, I was kidding.
Too much or too little? You know, can I just say this is a This Week in Writing? Can I just jump into a This Week in Writing?
Let's go.
This Week in Writing.
So one of my This Weeks in Writing is I can't eat popcorn the way that I used to.
What?
Are you finding that? So at our local AMC theater where we go, they have cheddar popcorn now, and I was like, yeah, let's get in on that. I want a bucket of cheddar popcorn while I watched Furiosa, and I felt so sick.
Well, it's cheddar popcorn.
It was so good, but I did not feel well after that.
You're like, the movie was terrible.
I don't remember what happened the second third or the last third of that movie because I was just like, oh god.
Yeah, cheddar popcorn is absolutely a couple, like 2 handfuls maybe. And
2 handfuls?
Yeah.
I wish there was like a warning on the box or something.
Oh yeah.
I had a lot more than 2 handfuls.
No, of course.
They handed me a bucket.
No, of course. That's what you do. I mean, I eat a normal bucket of popcorn, but I know the cheddar, when you start getting into the flavored stuff.
I don't know. Even that buttery, greasy stuff still makes me feel pretty sick. I'm just old now. Like I can't replace meals with popcorn the way that I used to.
I certainly can. I don't feel great about it, but I also feel amazing at the same exact time.
It's great while you're doing it.
Man, can I say something else? Since
yes, please.
This is kind of a This Week in Writing, but has to be said. It was Tasha's birthday.
I'm a year older.
You are a year older. So if you're hearing this, please wish Tasha a happy birthday.
Thanks, Josh.
Happy birthday. I will be
Thank you.
bringing you a present.
Will you, though? Josh has had a gift for me, supposedly. I don't remember what you got the gift for at this point. Maybe, like, my wedding?
I think I have one for you and Paul somewhere. I for sure have. I had like multiple gifts.
But I also think you have a gift from before I even met Paul.
Oh, yeah. I might have used it. Yeah. I'm horrible with gifts.
No, I know. You don't even get your wife a gift. So the fact that you even thought to get me a gift, even though you didn't give it to me, is still, thank you.
I might dispute that a little, but, I'll let it go. Maybe. But, whatever.
What's your This Week in Writing?
Okay, well, my This Week in Writing, I just have to go back to a previous episode we did, which was, I think, just last week, and we were talking about our rewrites and how we dive back into it, and I need to kind of change up something that I said. I was talking about jumping back into my outline, and I was like, I'm just going to go directly into my document. But then you and I had the conversation. We released the episode, and I got thinking. I was like, I can't believe I don't have a whiteboard with magnetic note cards, because that's what you have. And I was like, why don't I have that? So I ordered one right away. Because
you and I broke our spec with it,
yeah.
And I feel like it was a game changer.
Absolutely. And the craziest part is like, I think we talked about this, you kind of need to see things laid out in front of you. And that's, for me, very helpful. So I just wanted to bring that up and say that I have adopted it. It should have been with me this entire time. I've used note cards, but on a cork board. But now I have the whiteboard, the magnetic note cards. I have zero excuses. But this is how I'm pushing forward with my latest spec.
Have you already started with the rewrite using your board?
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Do you feel like a new man?
Yeah, it's going to be done.
Like already a better writer?
Probably next week, which is not true at all. It does make you feel a little more accomplished when you just see it in front of you and you're like, oh, yeah, this is stuff here. And
it feels like you can do it, right? Like, oh, I got this. It's just cards on a board. I just write it in a scene, and that's so less scary.
Totally. And what's so helpful about it, like what we were talking about, is there are moments that I know that I want in the script, and you could just write it and just kind of be like, okay, maybe it goes here. How do I earn this? How do you get here? How do you get to this end? So that's it.
You just throw it up on the board. It'll be there somewhere. I'll get there eventually. I love it.
Yeah. So that's it. Nothing too crazy, but that's my This Week in Writing.
That's a good one. I have one more before we jump into our topic.
Let's go.
It's about AI.
Oh.
So all the Sora stuff has been coming out with AI, and just every week I feel like we see something new within the creative business that we're in that AI is doing that I used to be afraid of. And then they opened up this, what is called showrunner or something, this like, you can basically, anyone can do a show on AI and just throw it up there. And I watched just like really tiny clips of these.
Okay.
And I realized I don't think AI is going to take our job.
Really?
And it's not, and it's not even about like, it's not good enough yet, because I'm smart enough to know that it will get there, and it'll get there very quickly. I think the reason it won't replace our jobs is because I watch these, and even though it's good, even though like it's beautiful, and even though someone can put together a scene and execute it effectively, I find myself caring so much less because humans aren't behind it. And I didn't know, because I didn't have another option in my entire life, I didn't know that was a really big key for me in watching media, was that there are humans acting this out. There are humans pretending to be this thing. There are humans who framed this shot, who put thought and emotion behind how they lit this thing. Like all of those things. Like, I think I just intuitively just accepted, but now watching a computer do it, I'm like, I don't care about that because nothing went into this. There's no emotion in here. It's like watching a marketing ad. I just don't care about it. So like that is a huge relief for me. And hopefully that holds for everybody else. But that's certainly how I feel. And I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like when you see something that's being made by AI, it's like made by AI. And I almost feel like if you just kind of look at it from a different perspective of like not made by humans, it does make you kind of feel differently about it. Like it like made by a robot, made by some all-knowing being. I don't know, but I'm with you. And I of course AI is going to be a tool, or I don't know what's going to happen. But you know what I was thinking about is I remember when like YouTube was blowing up and doing its thing, there was a bunch of these platforms that were offering like short form content and like deals to creators that are on YouTube, and they were fantastic. And everyone thought, oh, these are going to blow away television and long form. It's going to be short form. And that hasn't happened yet. We're just coexisting with like short form and long form. So maybe we just will coexist with people, those maniacs who want to see some AI generated story, and normal people like us.
I think that's right. And I think maybe AI will help us shortcut some things.
Yeah.
Like if we really do need we have to do reshoots, and we could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go get this establishing shot, but instead we could do it in AI. Like I could see it doing that kind of stuff, but I'm hopeful now.
I'm hopeful too.
That's all.
Last thing I'll say is I was watching The Goonies recently, and there was
as one does.
And there's an overhead shot when they're riding down the hill, and it's like everybody on their bikes, and there's just like this big crazy shot. And I was thinking about how long it must have taken for them to do this, and now all we would have to do is like put a drone up in the sky, and it would take probably 10% of the time.
Yeah.
And it's just nuts. That's all.
It's nuts. Yeah, I think it'll be the same thing.
I hope so.
Okay. Topic of the day.
Let's go.
Okay. Keys to a successful screenwriting career is kind of what we're calling this. But Josh and I we're always talking about how some people in Hollywood succeed at having a long screenwriting career, and how does that happen while others seem to fall apart after their original success and disappear, and you never hear from them again. And we're just always like, well, why is that? What is the secret sauce that some people have that others don't? Is there a secret sauce at all, or is it just luck? How does this happen? And I don't think we have any answers. I think it's largely because everybody's situation is very different, and the reasons could be so nuanced that it's hard to really suss out without doing just a very deep dive on someone's specific career and their personality, because personality does play a part in it.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, a theory that Josh and I, and also me and my manager, have also talked a lot about, that makes the most sense is that for screenwriters to have a long and successful career, they have to be good at everything. Like, if you're just a good spec writer, you could write an Oscar-winning movie, but then falter if nobody's buying your second spec. Or if your next spec isn't as great as the last one, which odds are it's not, because that one won an Oscar and that's the best you can do. So there's that. But if you're also great at pitching and you're adapting material and the market dries up, or you're competing and you just never get the job, you're always in second place, or you're unable to write your own spec, then you could also have a slowdown in your career that you may not be able to recover from. So today, basically, we're talking about all the things that you need to be good at as a professional screenwriter, what that means and why.
Mm-hmm. I love this.
Easy topic.
Oh, this is so easy, and we are so certain these are the answers.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
This is basically a topic that's just me and Josh, our conversations that we have wondering about these things.
Totally. Again, I've said this a million times, but this actually is something we talk about. Like, it's just like, hey, so how would, like, we just list out certain things of what would make a successful screenwriting career. Like, this is it. And I think, but this is good. It is a little bit of everything, and we're just going to kind of lay it out and go over it.
And it's also like, remember that one script that was so hot back then, or that one writer guy? What has he done lately? Oh, we look it up and like nothing. Well, why is that? Why is there such a gap in that IMDb? So like those.
I know.
So this is what we suggest, or what we think. Okay. So one of the things you have to be good at as a screenwriter is spec writing. Josh, why do you have to be good at this?
You're generating your own material. You are coming up with your own ideas, and you're staying sharp. You're keeping your lightsaber powered on, your sword will be sharpened, and your nunchucks will be tied together.
Yeah, follow Dan Kunka on Twitter if you don't already, or Alex Convery if you don't already. They're always talking about writing your spec. That is the bread and butter of their career for sure. And they make a very good living off of generating new material, selling it, jumping to the next thing. And the beautiful thing about spec writing, as Josh knows very well, is you can control your career with it. Like, I do a lot of adaptations. I am beholden to the people who own that IP. None of that stuff is mine. Oftentimes I can't even send it out to people as a sample because it's not mine. And I also don't have control over what that ultimate product is oftentimes, especially in features.
Yeah.
So spec writing gives you control as a screenwriter. And it also, I think, and this is the coolest part about it, is that if your career is dying, is going slow, is going in a direction you don't want it to go, you're writing horror movies and you really, really love rom-coms, you can write a new spec and completely change the nature of your career and the excitement around your career. And that is all on you. And that's so cool.
Yeah. And in addition to that, I feel like, and this is going to probably segue into other things, like for instance, the thing, you and I wrote something, or writing something, and when we were breaking it and figuring it out, it's like, oh, we can do this. Where can we do that? Like, where does the story go? We're not beholden by any rules. We came up with a certain idea that worked for us, and oh, this character would be cool. And that idea of like, you can just kind of figure out story in a way where you're not like constrained to, this has to be in it. This has to be in it. It's you're just kind of figuring out as you go. And I think that is invaluable because you're just you're staying sharp with what you're doing.
Yeah. I think another sort of career aspect of this. So I would say that of all of these that we're about to mention, I'm the weakest at this one, at number one, spec writing.
I disagree. I just witnessed it.
Yeah, but I needed you. I feel like I need a partner. How many specs have I started that I've never finished?
0.
Like so many.
They're only not finished until you die, Tasha.
Ugh. I will take many of these to the grave. And it's not that I don't love them. It's just they're not good, and I either lose interest or I can't figure out how to crack it or whatever. There's numerous reasons why. If I put in the time and I'm like solely doing this, I could probably figure it out, but I'm trying to get jobs so that I can pay my rent. So like, it's very hard for me. It's just very hard. But a career thing about it is that even though I'm doing all of this work on adaptations, I'm doing TV adaptations, movie adaptations, I'm always asked, what do you have next? What is, by producers, by my agents, like, well, what is your original thing? The more original it is, the more we can get people excited about you. We can take it out into the world. We can get director meetings, actor meetings. You can meet more people if you have this piece of material that is yours and yours alone. It becomes this big career step, basically. So it's a huge deal. It's a huge deal to have, no matter what you sort of want your career to be. And by the way, you can make a very good career off of just adapting things and just doing OWAs, which we'll talk about in a second. But having the ability to write a spec should be part of your tool chest for all of the reasons we just said. It can get you out of these holes.
I love it. The beauty of writing.
I feel like there's like a freedom about you because you're a spec writer. There's just like an aura of freedom and joy, but also stress.
For sure.
It's all of it.
Well, why don't we go to the next one and we can discuss where my career falls apart.
Adaptation. Adaptation.
And this is one of your superpowers.
I think it's a superpower because I don't have the spec writing power. Yeah, adaptation, I think, is absolutely a skill you should learn to have as a screenwriter because a lot of the work that we do comes from pre-existing material that people want you to adapt, whether it's a book, a comic book, another script that they have that they don't like, that they like some things of. There's all I've gotten, songs to adapt, an article to adapt. Adaptation at any level becomes extremely important if you want to consistently work. So I would just add it as something, as a skill that you just be aware that you need to learn. Even if you don't have the skill or you haven't done it before, just be aware that it's something that you should be learning how to do. And I think the keys about adaptation, and we can and should do multiple episodes specifically about how to adapt things. And I think we have already. But it's no matter what the material is, if it's a paragraph of an article all the way through an anime that's 500 episodes, what is the emotional core of it? Break it down to its smallest
Mm-hmm.
emotional components and write your story around that. And love the thing you're adapting, I think, even if you found it only because they sent it to you, find a way to love it, because you're going to want to bring in the world in a way that other people will love, and you can't do that unless you love it too. So adaptation becomes important just because it is a job offer. A lot of the job offers you'll receive as a professional are going to be adaptations. And if you don't know how to do them, that limits your ability to do certain jobs and make certain money.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It's just it's like a practical job thing. The way that you would recommend anyone who's like in business learn how to do something.
I know, but I feel like it's so hard with stories, because if you go and read The Hunger Games, you're like, where do I even begin with this? And so
Yeah.
it's a skill. Yeah, but I think you're spot on with finding what you love about the story and where you connect with it,
Yeah.
so you don't resent what you're adapting.
I should take a step back for a second, because the conversation that I've had with my manager about this, and I think where this episode topic came from, was that my manager has a theory that most writers are not good at everything. They're good at 1 to 2 things. Like, there could be an awesome spec writer, but as soon as you ask them to revise something, they choke up. They can't do it. They can write an original, but they can't take notes. Or maybe they can write an original and they can take notes, but ask them to adapt this book, they send you a script that's just absolute shit. But why? They are so good at writing an original script. Why is this adaptation such garbage? Other people are just really bad at the people part. So like, her writers can do everything, and those are like the unicorns in this industry. But most writers can do 1 or 2 things. And her job as a producer is to kind of like go through that minefield and find out, usually by trial and error, who's good at what. Because you, as a producer, and I know as like studio execs and stuff, having worked with them, they sort of feel like, oh, you're a writer. Like, you can do the writing thing, the thing that's with the writing, you can just do that, right? And there's sort of a lack of understanding that every single phase of it, from pitching to outlining to a finished script to revising to production drafts, like, those are all different skills that a writer may or may not have. And so what we're saying is the best way to have a sustainable career is to just try to be good at all these things and learn about all of these different things. Even if you don't think you're going to adapt something, you want to stay spec writer, career longevity says maybe adaptation might be in the cards for you if you want a really long career. Maybe. Again, everyone's different. You live your whole life off specs. Who knows?
Yeah, even if you don't think you're going to do it, it's going to come up.
Yeah. This next one I love because I know a lot of writers struggle with this, and we hear so many stories from very frustrated producers who have to fire a writer because they're unable to revise. Revising is a huge part of a writer's sustainable success as a screenwriter.
Something that comes to mind is we have a friend who had once told me that he cannot really write a script, but he can revise and make a script into a movie. And he's had movies made. And it is a skill that is very hard to do. It's very hard to look at a script and be like, how can I now mold this and take it to the next level? Because you're obviously reading probably a very good writer that wrote something that's very good, but it's just not the right thing at the right time. So you kind of have to change it and sculpt it. So the ability to take something over the finish line is like one of the hardest things to do, I think, from what I understand, from what people like, that just like taking something and being like, I know how to make this into a movie and I know how to make this better. Superpower.
It is a superpower, and I 100% know, I don't think I know that this is a skill you absolutely have to learn and cultivate. And it starts at being able to take notes from just your writers group, like practice there if that's what you have right now.
Sure.
But certainly from producers that you have reading your stuff, from managers or agents that you have, learn to take their notes and learn how to revise properly. Because what Josh is saying is right. And like the articulation of that is right. Is like the writer who can take it over the line, meaning there's a writer who can write a great script that a studio buys, and they immediately fire them and hire someone else who can take it over the line, meaning get the script in a place that is affordable, realistic, really, really engaging, like true to what the finished production draft shooting script is going to be, take it to my green light committee, which is all the money people who say, yes, let's go ahead and make this movie. There is a writer with a skill to do that thing. And if you are not that person, I think people will quickly find out and quickly stop hiring you because they need a writer who can get that movie done.
You brought up a really good point. For the main thing is like receiving notes is so hard when it's coming from so many different people, and that ability to kind of go through them and say, okay, this is what works. This is what works. And it's because, when you start, you're just trying to appease people to a certain, you don't really even if you say you're not doing it, you don't really realize you're like, well, I don't want to let that person down or this producer or that executive or my friend or that director or whatever it may be. And then
or they know more than I do. So
yes.
I should do that.
Yeah, totally. Oh, well, they're more familiar with this. So that ability to just kind of work through everything and put it to a script is crazy. It flies at you.
Yeah. And there's a lot jumbled up into this, I think, one bullet point of revising, because it's being able to get it over the finish line, but it's also being able to take notes well, right? Like humbly and understanding the notes that you're getting, and then also how to execute the notes you're getting, because that's also a skill. Like being able to hear the notes and be like, okay, I understand what I need to change, but then knowing how to actually do it properly. And we talk about this endlessly on the podcast, the note behind the note and how to actually address it. So like, again, this is a skill that really maybe you are the 1% who just innately knows this, but if you're the 99% like us, then it's just the more you do it, the more you have people read it, the more you get notes back, the more you're addressing it and giving that person another read and saying, yes, you addressed this note, or no, you didn't. Like just trial and error until you can figure this out.
Yeah.
Go.
I was going to say the next one, the 50,000 foot view. Mm-hmm. Can you summarize your story? Talk about how it functions to a producer. Mm-hmm. Things to that nature.
Yeah. This one is hard. It's very hard. And I'm still learning how to be able to like articulate things in a very quick and precise manner, because producers' brains work differently than ours. Mm-hmm. And whenever someone asks us about story, we want to like sit down with you, really talk about story and all the details that matter, and the lighting in the room, which really tells the tone and the theme of this and really is a metaphor for this. And producers just want like the one-liner.
Yeah.
the quick thing that I can understand why I want to spend money on this. And so I think it's important to be able to take this 50,000 foot view. And this is a term that they use a lot in TV, where let's just take a step back. That's what Josh is doing with his outline, putting it up on a board, literally taking a step back and looking at the whole movie or the whole show as a whole, rather than, going into the forest and looking at individual trees and how they function. So can you take a step back and can you tell someone, this is how my story functions. This is what my story is about, very simply. This is why it's appealing to an audience. Like how can you talk about it from, just like separate yourself, I guess, from the writer who has to go in there and actually do scene work and talk about it from this bigger, broader view. And the reason why that can be very helpful in television is because we need to write to something, and we don't know what we need to write to, meaning what themes we need to write to, what story arcs we need to write to, until we take a step back and say, well, what do we want the audience's experience over the course of these 8 episodes to be? What do we want them to feel? Let's talk about that generally first before we go closer and closer and closer. So being able to do this becomes very important. There's a writer, for example, who I know who is trying to sell a show, but she's finding it hard to articulate to producers what the scope of the show is. So like they get very excited in these meetings, all of the financiers and buyers that she's talking to, because like they know it's exciting. There's something very cool about the concept of this TV show that's very cool. The attachments are all very cool, like the actor and the director who are attached. But then they've consistently gotten the note after the meeting's over of like, wait, what is your show about again?
Oh no, yeah.
Like, so there's like a separation between like the concept, being able to like sell the sort of the story as a writer to writer, and then how they're able to sell it to a producer. So being able to talk about your story in this 50,000 foot view, I think is extreme, and think about it in this way is extremely important.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
Okay, I like this one. Collaboration is the next one. Being able to,
Yeah.
like Josh and I, collaborate on a spec and not kill each other.
Yeah.
Yet.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen.
We're not done yet. We never know.
Oh, great. Yeah, collaboration. It's key. You're going to have to collaborate with anyone at some point in time if you're a writer. A director, a producer, executive, another writer like us. We're apparently
You've had to
kill each
collaborate
other.
recently with an actor. Like it.
Oh, yeah, an actor, of course.
All over the place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's important. What's interesting, I think, well, currently, like what we're writing, like we're working on things, is I'm not precious about anything. I'm not saying this is the way to be, but I also, like, if you come up, they're like, here's this idea. I'm like, yeah, cool, do it. It's great. Let's just go. It's rare that there's something that happens where I'm like, that might not work.
Yeah. And if you do, I feel like pay attention to that, right? Like that means that your gut is telling you something.
Yeah, I think that with anybody. But yeah, I think the key with collaboration is you just have to always kind of check your ego and make sure you're not like hurt that your idea isn't making it to the scene or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I guess I'm speaking strictly from like a writing perspective, but there's other ways to collaborate with people.
It's so true. I think especially when we go to film school, if that you went that route, or I don't know, maybe just the way that you dream of what this job is, you sort of envision yourself as an auteur. Like, I'm going to write this fucking amazing script. You are going to act it exactly as I have written, like Aaron Sorkin, and it will win an Oscar or be this big budget success, big blockbuster success. So like we have dreams of us being like the Tolstoy of screenwriting, but the reality of the job is not that at all. And it is about just, I think if you go instead of like, this is my amazing opus that the world will finally see my point of view on the world, which I think you can have that in your head as part of why you're writing and part of what's driving you. But if really at the end of the day, what you want to do is make the absolute best TV show or the absolute best movie, however that's done, it could be that it's not my line that Tom Cruise says in my movie, it's Josh's line. And I really wish Tom Cruise was saying my line, but Josh had the better line. So it has to be Josh's line. That's just the way it goes. And you check your ego out the door. And that's something that I've had to learn a lot, especially like, I don't know. I've definitely been so precious about a script and think it's genius. Someone else comes in and is like, actually, this line's probably better. Or what if they did this instead? And I'm like, fuck, that is better. Fuck, I'm going to have to just do that. And that part's not mine anymore. And then I started to get to this point where like it doesn't feel like mine anymore. It just feels like a good script. And I no longer am paying attention to whose line is what and who changed what. It's all of us now making the best possible thing. And I love that actually about that job, that this part of the job, it actually is so much more fun when we're all actively working to make the best thing, regardless of whose is what.
Same. I feel like collaborating on things is like all I would want to do with people and friends and people that you like to be around.
Yeah. We had that great Lethal Weapon episode in early days of Act Two podcast. You remember that one where we talked about Shane Black and how we think Shane Black is a genius. And then the more we sort of did some deep diving on things like Lethal Weapon, you're like, oh, like he collaborated a lot with like a lot of people. He didn't just sit in a room by himself, which is what I imagine a screenwriting career is, and just write these genius scripts on his own. He kept taking it to people and saying, what do you think about this? And then they would riff with people and collaborate. And I think that's a great lesson.
I love it. This is a perfect tie into the next one, which you go.
Well, I mean, I guess it's the same. It's working well with others, right?
No,
I mean, but so career-wise, just to like tell a sort of personal story, I've been in pitches where, actually, the pitch that sort of like changed my life is someone that Josh knew, played tennis with, and I pitched them a really big movie, and I didn't get it because in the room, as I was pitching, this producer told my agents they didn't think I could handle all of the different cooks in the kitchen that this movie would be. My pitch was great. They probably would have picked my pitch story-wise above all others, but they didn't. They felt my nervousness and felt like I wouldn't be able to handle the job. And so I didn't get the job. The best story did not win that day.
Let me ask, were they right at that time in your life?
I've thought about this a lot.
The answer is no.
Maybe they were right. Maybe they were right. I think right now I am so qualified to do that because I think I have the confidence now that I realize I can handle a lot of personalities. Big ones, small ones, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But back then I hadn't yet had the experience of a ton of cooks who were competing or had big egos or whatever.
Sure.
But you also don't know until you can do it. I don't know. Yeah, so maybe I could have. Maybe that would have been how I showed myself. But I don't know. I think about it a lot. I ask myself, could I have done that? I feel like I could do anything.
I would say, I mean, listen, it's easy to be like, life works out, which it always does. But that job would have been awesome. And I actually am confident that you would have gotten it done.
Thank you, Josh. That means a lot.
But I was going to say, but although I'm confident you would have gotten it done, maybe it would have led to other things that wouldn't have happened. You never know.
Yeah, I think that's right. I'm happy with the path I have taken.
I'm happy.
God damn it.
Some bullshit, but yep. All right. This next one, we kind of touched on this a little bit, is receiving notes. You have to be great, or at least appear great, at receiving notes.
Yeah, that's a great distinction.
Yeah, if nothing else. Well, tell us why, Tasha.
So actually, when we were at the Act 2 mixer,
Oh.
we were talking to someone who was like, I'm having the toughest time with this writer because I'm giving them notes and they just keep arguing with me. It's just argument after argument after argument, and we can't get this thing done if they're going to continually argue with me. And it not only breeds bad blood, like, I don't want to work with this writer again. It's just like not worth my time to have to fight with them on everything. But also the second piece is that the script either doesn't get to where it needs to be. It doesn't get over the line, as we were talking about earlier, or it takes so long to get over the line that the producer thinks like, this isn't worth it. I'm going to find another writer who can take notes and do this well. So receiving notes, it's not just being personal for the sake of being a personable human. It really is a part of our job that helps you continue to get jobs, because guess what? The more likable you are from producers, the more easy you are to work with. And that doesn't mean easy to work with, like I take all of your notes and I do exactly what you say. No, it's being receptive to notes. It's being all the things we talk about when we talk about notes. Go back to listen to our other episodes. We're not going to get into it here, but being humble in this process and being very receptive of notes, being able to execute them.
I have a friend who is a producer who would always say, he would refer to someone else maybe that was a little difficult, and just be like, that person is a life's too short individual. And I just don't want to deal with it, you know? And I think, I can't speak fully, but I think that person would rather work with a writer who maybe is better to be around and less qualified than someone who is more qualified and a pain in the ass to be around.
I think that's right. Because you can get that less qualified writer there.
Yeah.
Eventually.
You're like, I'll get this here. And I like working with them.
Yeah, for sure. I honestly, as a showrunner, would rather hire someone who's less qualified.
Yeah.
Or like not as good than someone who's a bad apple. I just can't do it.
Because the bad apple, that permeates throughout a group of individuals, and that attitude and that naysaying and that just the bad apples are no good. They're bad apples.
Good. Yeah. Wait, didn't we talk about this as of This Week in Writing about Navy SEALs and how Navy SEALs choose their leaders? Do you remember us talking about this?
This sounds like something we've talked about for sure.
That someone, God, sorry, I'm not going to be able to like quote exactly where I heard this from. So whatever, on Instagram. Someone had interviewed the Navy SEALs and asked them about the leadership qualities they look for in their leaders and who lead their teams. And they said that they do this diagram basically of qualifications, like ability versus sort of personality.
Mhm.
And they tend to choose the people who are in the middle, meaning people who are less qualified but have really good, solid personalities. They're not narcissists. They're not gonna, abandon their group. Whatever. They're not. They would rather pick someone less qualified who fit the bill personality wise than someone who is a narcissist, and more qualified. And so if that's good enough for the Navy SEALs, it is good enough for screenwriters, and I think is totally true for us.
I agree.
I'm glad you're reading this next one because you're much better at this than me.
Networking. I do wonder if you have to be good at networking. If you're good at all the other things and you're not good at networking, are you going to bump? Is this gonna ruin you?
I agree. This is the farthest down on the list.
I think so.
Because word of mouth will travel that you're good at your job.
Yeah. Well, that person's great at everything. They just don't want to talk to you. I'll be like, that's fine.
Yeah.
Like this Tony Gilroy.
Right. That's literally who I see.
I have no idea. But
yeah.
But if you are a screenwriter, it is important. Attempt networking because you meet people, you go to functions, you have your coffees. It's important.
It leads to other things. Yeah. I mean, especially earlier in your career, it is more important than I think later in your career. Because later in your career, once you're established, once people know your name, once people know your work, they've read your scripts, even if it's not produced work, but it's just your scripts are out there, people are aware of you. You have to do less networking because it's almost like the self-running machine.
Yeah,
sort of
then
doing its thing.
You're too busy to network at that point.
You're too busy to network, and the jobs become like your networking. However, I think early in your career, networking is important. I did a lot of it. I would get drinks with a lot of other assistants. I would do a ton more generals than I do now, because the more people you know, the more opportunities are possible. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And I think networking probably changes as you evolve as well, where it's just then ties into the ability of, hey, I'd rather, like I met Tasha. She's great. She seems like someone I want to be around. All right, cool. Yeah, I met her at this party.
My dream, though, is to one day be like Chris Nolan in more ways than one. But in one way, like not answering phone calls. He doesn't have a cell phone, right?
Yeah,
and he doesn't have email. It's just like, that's the dream.
Dude, yeah. I think that's actually an interesting point is for everything we're saying, there is a 0.1% outlier factor in all of this, but the majority of us, I feel, this is, there is the Christopher Nolans and Tony Gilroys of the world.
Mm-hmm. Okay, next one is thinking creatively under pressure. That pressure could be deadlines. That pressure could be production. That pressure could be budget. It could be whatever. It could be just these crazy big personalities like we're talking about breathing down your neck. So being able to keep your head, navigate the ship, captain the ship creatively becomes very important. And this is a human skill that I think every job requires you to have to do well in that job. Screenwriting is no exception.
Yeah. I know somebody that I was around in kind of a creative environment where she would always just point out the negatives of like the problems of something without any solution. And it was so frustrating, but that was just an example that I was thinking of in the sense of like coming up with solutions under pressure, figuring out how to make something happen and figuring out how to solve a problem. It's like you said, you're captaining the ship. But that's, it's a life skill, I think, as well.
Mm-hmm. How do you think you learn this skill? Is it just, I think some people are just naturally good at this ability. Like, I do think there are just cool heads that know how to manage people. I definitely did not have this skill coming up. It's something that I had to learn, I think, over time of just doing it. Being really stressed out and still somehow being able to manage. Because, like, you also, like, when you're under the gun, like, you have to sink or swim.
Yeah.
To blend metaphors. And I've also known writers who like are better at being able to think creatively under pressure. Like if they don't have a deadline, they're fucked. They can't do anything. So I don't know. The skill exists and is something we should all have.
I agree. Am I going on to the next one? We're almost there.
Yeah, go on to the next one.
Oh, you know what? This is you.
Okay,
this is
all right.
definitely a Tasha.
In TV, a skill that you should cultivate is how to lead a writer's room and just how to lead in general. And again, this is a skill that I think is required in every job where you want to succeed and level up in that job. It's just how to manage people. And that includes these difficult bad apples that we're talking about, what to do in those difficult situations. It includes problem solving on the fly, being open to other people's opinions, not just your own, making people feel good about being there and enjoy coming to work. It's all the things of being a good manager. So if you want to work in TV and you want to work at a high level in TV, if you just want to be a staff writer, I think this is different. However, if you want to create your own shows or be a number two, then learning how to manage people and how to lead in general. Start reading books. That's what I do. I'm just trying to read from people who have done this before, and it doesn't have to just be in screenwriting. Read people who have done this in business and elsewhere, in law, wherever. Just pick up skills.
Yeah. This is all kind of tying together. It's so interesting, everything we're talking about, and we have one more thing to say, but they really, all of these things are interconnected, but they're just like, they're skills. They're highlighted aspects of each individual thing. But I think it's just really interesting. Like what we were just talking about now kind of ties into thinking creatively under pressure. Like those, like leading the group and thinking creatively and figuring it out and captaining the ship. Like, yeah, there's nothing more to say just aside from everything you just said.
Yeah.
All right. The last one. Mm-hmm. Juggling multiple projects is a very big thing. And I'm going to say this. I'm not just saying this. I know I've complimented a few of your superpowers. You definitely can juggle some projects.
Yeah. So can you, though. You're pretty good at this skill as well.
Thank you. But we're talking about you.
Deflect.
Don't talk about me. Don't talk about me. Again, I don't even know how to explain how to juggle multiple projects. Because, well, how do you, is there like something that you do? There's no way to like do it besides just like trying to juggle multiple projects and then figuring out what works and then being like, oh, okay.
I think that's right. I'd be curious how you do it. I'll talk about how I do it, and I do think it is just like trial and error and figure out how your brain works. Some days, I'll be honest, some days is just like the day is just carrying me through, and I have no idea where I am. I could be in some other episode, and suddenly I'm pulled over here, and I'm like, where am I now?
Yeah.
So some days are like that. However, when I get my shit together, which is what I'm going to have to start doing now because I'm taking on maybe too many things.
Nice.
Is the David H. Steinberg scheduling method.
Yeah.
So yesterday was one of these days where I had so much shit going on that, and from two different projects and from multiple episodes of the different projects, that I had to, I'm going to wake up at 6 a.m. I'm going to do this thing until 7. At 7, I'm going to work out. At 8 a.m. I'm going to take a shower. At 8:30 I'm going to do break. Like I had to do that. And sometimes it gets to that point, and other days it's not like that, but sometimes I do have to schedule myself in this way in order to get everything done properly. And keeping a to-do list, keeping a schedule is very helpful in juggling multiple projects. And in terms of like creatively being able to juggle multiple projects, I've never quite found this super difficult, but I think a big reason is you take breaks a little bit. So like when I'm really jamming on multiple projects, I'll work on one in the morning, take a lunch break, work on the second in the afternoon. That is when like the multiple projects juggling is at its best. Mm-hmm. Other times I'm white knuckling it through the multiple projects, and it's just knowing the project so well that you can jump in and out.
Yeah.
But that's what I do. I think over scheduling is my key here. What about you?
Yeah. Scheduling, definitely very helpful. I think that's probably also the key in terms of like when it comes to scripts, and if there's creatively multiple things that are in my world, I have just like worked on being comfortable with not thinking about a project and just being like, okay, that's not in my mind this week or today or tomorrow or this morning or whatever it is, which just takes a long time because, you know, when you work on something, you're like obsessing about it, or that's how I get. And then you just have to work on being like, okay, not today. this takes precedent, but I will get to that later, and this is when I will get to it. And then you have to hold yourself accountable and actually do it.
Yeah, it's been juggling multiple projects on drugs with writing and TV, which has been really interesting because when you showrun a show, for instance, you have 8 episodes, and sometimes as a showrunner, I will write an entire episode, in which case I'm like really invested in this. I'm all consumed because this is blank page Tasha writing this thing.
Yeah.
But then I'm also literally simultaneously, same day, same week, will be in a different episode, maybe 3 episodes down the line, and having to revise a writer's script, maybe because we just had a production meeting and this whole sequence isn't working and I have to rethink it. So now I'm writing 202, but also revising 207, but also revising 204 because these lines don't work. So like all of that has been fucking nuts.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, the more you do it, the more skilled at it you will become, because you have to. There is no other choice. So like, I do think that like holding a gun to your head thing works in this situation, because you just have to learn to focus. Focus, 100%, disregard. Focus, 100% over here, disregard that. Now like you just focus on the thing that's in front of you every time instead of your brain being in 10 different directions. If you can figure out that skill, whew, I think you're golden. You can juggle multiple projects, no problem.
Damn.
It's exactly what you said. I just re-articulated what you said, that you
No.
just have to learn to let go.
Collaboration.
Of something. Full circle.
Full circle, man. Full circle. That's it.
Oh, that's it. Just that, guys. And then you will have a successful career.
Yeah, just be good at everything.
This is a hard job. People don't realize how hard it is until they get into it.
Just put on a face like everything is okay.
Mm-hmm. That's the first step.
Yeah, that's what we should have started with. And everything will be okay.
Yeah, act as if.
Act as if.
Okay. Well, if any of those you wanted elaboration on, you want us to do a whole topic on, we are more than happy to do it. I think these are all really interesting things. These are all things we're constantly dealing with ourselves and trying to get better at ourselves because of this very reason. And we believe that these are all keys to becoming, but also more importantly, sustaining your screenwriting career.
Yeah.
So let us know. Give us some feedback on what you think of this episode. But quote of the day.
Let's go. Characters
are complex creatures. Give them a want, a drive, a fear, and a secret. They will soon have a life of their own. Greta Gerwig. Please remember to rate and subscribe. Follow us at ActTwoWriters for more awesome writing stuff. You can follow me, Tasha, at Story Thursday on Instagram, or on Twitter at Tasha 3.0.
And I'm Joshua Hallman on Twitter, Josh Hallman on Instagram.
And as always, the Act 2 podcast is a production of Act 2, a network and support group for the everyday working screenwriter. This episode was edited by Paul Lundquist.